So that was a cool modulation, right? You can use a 4/5 chord into a 5/6 chord to modulate up a half or up a whole step. That's actually really common, you know. So I was playing around in the key of D, and I got to this chord, just playing a G triad. You can play it fretted like that, and then you go up to A over B. You're not out of the key yet, but listen to how strongly it wants to go to an E major, right? Now we're in the key of E. Pretty sweet. Very, very common way to modulate a whole step. Reminder, I have the Oxbox giveaway still live. It's going to be live for another week or so once this video drops. So sign up if you want a chance to win a free Oxbox with a flight case. Let's get to today's video. I've got my friend Brad Sample on the channel. He's a great guitar player. He plays live with a couple different artists. He also plays on records. We discuss the differences between those things, where the mindset is with live playing. We also talk a lot about Jazzmasters. He's a huge Jazzmaster nerd, and he has a really great Fender. I wanted to get his reaction to my Danocaster and my Novo, so I'll let him play those a bit. And so we're just hanging out and playing guitar, so have fun. See ya. Good morning, friends. Welcome to my channel. My name's Justin.
Hey, guys.
I play guitar on songs in Nashville, and I have a very special guest today. This is Brad Sample of The Voice.
Guys, how y'all doing?
Fantastic guitar player, singer, songwriter, makes me jealous in so many ways, and he's a huge Jazzmaster nerd. So we're going to play some guitar and talk and hang out. And I also want to put my two non-Fender Jazzmasters in his hands and see what he thinks of those. So
yeah.
How are you, man?
Good, dude. Good, man. Just pumped to be here. Been loving all the stuff on your channel. I actually have learned quite a bit, even in my old age, and with all the crap that I've done. It's been nice to hear your take on a lot of kind of not even like specific licks or anything like that, but overarching method on how you get places.
Oh yeah.
And we've been in the room together on a lot of projects,
That's
and it's
right.
still nice to learn kind of
yeah.
what's in your brain when you're doing it.
We've worked together at Pentaveret, right? And you actually have a room over there.
Yeah, I have the E room over there at Pentaveret.
Yeah. So Pentaveret's a studio that my buddy, our buddy, Bobby Holland runs. Bobby designed those monitors that I use. Actually, Brad helped him design these monitors.
Yeah, we've been working on those for a long time.
I love them so much. They're so clear. They're not hyped anywhere. My favorite thing, and what I usually tell people that they're so good about for me, is that I can play a baritone pass.
Yeah.
And I can hear everything. It's like being able to see the bottom of a lake from a boat on the surface.
Wow.
Crystal clear.
That's a good description.
Like there's no conflicting with the bass drum or a floor tom or a synth pad. Like I know where all those are, and I can play around them so much better.
Yeah, man. It was a long effort, and it took a lot of trial and error. I think you had a set of the Protos for a while, right?
Yeah, Bobby let me hang on to those while I had them for a year.
Oh, wow.
It took so long to get these.
Oh, I know, dude. It was like trying to, like whatever backlash from, not backlash, but like kind of hangover from COVID backups and stuff like that.
Right,
like speakers from Taiwan and kind of anywhere where they were being manufactured was just hard to get a hold of the drivers. But
I believe it.
But yeah, those ones were like specifically the versions that you ended up with. I think are probably my favorite. They're really clear. They're in a small package, and they are full range, man. Like from the bottom to the top, I feel like they're really even and great sounding.
Yeah.
And they're also musical too. Like it's
absolutely.
It's
not sterile or clinical.
Yeah, it was two music nerds who are also hi-fi dweebs that just wanted to, like we like listening to records. Like it's one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And so like we wanted to make sure that you didn't feel like you're in a hospital when you put on the Rolling Stones or something like that. Like it should be fun to listen to music. Yeah. And it should be fun to make it too.
Yeah.
So
I think if they put the Rolling Stones on in hospitals, people would get better sooner.
You're probably right. You're probably right. A little bit of Gimme Shelter and you got people running around dancing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, so tell me about your guitar. When did you get it? I love the binding.
Yeah, man. So
if I had a Fender like that, I might not have reached for these other,
Dude, so this is a crazy Jazzmaster. I'm trying to remember the exact year, but it honestly doesn't matter because this is one of the prototypes for the American Original series. If you can find an American Original anything for a good price, get it, because they are some of the better guitars that Fender's made in the last decade.
Yeah.
But my buddy Von Scow, great pickup maker, great amp maker. He's lived a million lives. He's living in the Philippines now. But yeah, crazy dude. He consulted with Fender on the American Original series. He wrote a book about Leo Fender. He's a big Fender nerd.
Okay.
And kind of helped them put this series together. So the American Original series it wasn't a 62 reissue. It wasn't a 59 reissue. It was kind of like they took 59 to 65 Jazzmasters. They took like 54 to 62 Tellys. They took like a broad swath of
interesting.
Of the Glory Days versions of those guitars.
Right.
And we're like, what was the coolest part about those guitars?
Yeah.
And they put them together. And this was the final run of prototypes. At the time, I was playing for a gal named Brooke Eden and William Michael Morgan, on the road. Yeah. And then doing a bunch of Opry stuff as well, starting to do sessions here and there. I couldn't really call myself a session guy yet, but I was starting to. And
so many people do.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Session man, watch out.
In Peoria, Illinois.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. That's you. I'm not making fun of you.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. I've been on Sound Better, dude. I get it. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But so I ended up with this guitar, and immediately fell in love with it when I was making my first solo record in a long time. It ended up being called Rhinestones and Broken Bones, and I was talking to Eugene Edwards, who's Dwight's longtime guitar player now,
right?
And he played it at when William Michael Morgan was opening up for him, and he was like, "You have."
He played your this guitar?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, "You have to find a way to."
You haven't washed it since, right? No string changes.
No string changes for sure. I wish. I break strings all the time. Unfortunately, we were talking about this stupid heavy right hand, but I'm working on it. Yeah. But so Eugene played it, and then Tommy White at the Opry played it, and they both solidified, like, come hell or high water, you gotta find a way to keep this freaking guitar. And so I started like posting as many pictures with it as I could, because it was just a prototype, and as far as I know, to this day, Fender's pretty particular about band-sawing prototypes after they release so they'll just eviscerate them once they get them all back, you know.
Really?
Yeah, and so I pretty much all but started begging them to let me keep it.
Right.
And it was looking dark for a couple months where they were like, no, we got to get them all back, blah blah. But I was talking to my buddy Vaughn, like I said, who kind of helped design this series, and by the grace of God, they let me keep this one, and then let me buy the Jaguar, the sister to it.
Whoa,
yeah,
cool.
So very cool thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. And I just kind of fell in love with all the kooky, a little left of center stuff that I've always liked in the guitar world. You know, I've kind of had to find my way into playing up the middle on pop and country records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But my instincts were always, where's the weird stuff that's going to be really cool?
Yeah.
And this was like the most up the middle version of all that stuff, you know, showing up with a Supro or a weird old Silvertone or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
This still kind of gave me all that crazy vibe, but it stays in tune.
Yeah, that's what's amazing to me about it, is how much movement you can get out of the arm, and it'll return.
Yeah, and I have a song on, one thing that I've started doing a lot on, I can't do it now because it'll totally throw it off, but one thing that I've started doing a lot on tunes is I'll tune the E string down to a C, so you get that kind of like 6/4 thing, and you can almost get away with playing baritone parts like down low, and you get this big burly low C note that you have access to. Your shapes are a little off.
You and Madison Cunningham, right? She tunes Jazzmaster.
C standard, right?
C or C sharp standard, yeah.
Golly,
I think
that's
but
crazy.
I don't. She may have changed things for different songs.
And you probably know better than I would, Justin, because you're such a math whiz. But like, I gotta think like it's something to do with.
There's a lot of string.
There's a lot of string. Yeah. You know, like when you're restringing one of these on the E string, like I almost never even clip anything off the high E string.
Totally.
You know,
there's not really much to do.
Yeah. And so I can only imagine that because there's so much bandwidth here for leverage, you can get it. I mean, you can tune them way down. And then also, again, like that's pretty violent, and then we're still living in tune, you know? Like it's just a cool sound.
I think when you're tuned up to standard, you know, bending on a Jazzmaster feels a lot different than bending on a fixed bridge guitar.
Yeah.
So what works against you when you're tuned up helps you out.
Yeah.
When you're tuned way down.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And it's like you said, it's all that string behind the bridge. It's this big tailpiece that's kind of pushing against you, but giving a little bit too. That makes it feel weird.
Yeah, it is.
Get used to it in the left hand for sure.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, when you're trying to do like the, you know, the like steel stuff, how do you? I always fight this guitar trying to do anything in tune like that.
Mine's
Oh, geez. Well, that's not fair. Wow. See, mine's not that good. Mine's not that good. You can hear the E string dropping just a touch, or the B string dropping just a touch.
That beat frequency happens as the stationary note pulls down.
Like for me, it's not bad, but it does tail off just a little bit, you know? See, yours is, oh, but you're bending look, you're bending, oh no, you're not now. Man, that's good. I might have to, ooh, nice. I might have to bug you about a setup after this. Because like,
well, I want you to play this guitar.
Yeah.
Let's just check them out.
oh, I already like the neck, dude. Yeah. See, mine's still got all the gloss on it. Ooh, that's just the bridge, too. Your tremolo feels so much different than mine does.
It's a little different. Look at the tailpiece. It's a Descendant. Do you see how they've cut these slots?
What does that do?
Well, you get a stronger break angle off the bridge.
Gotcha.
So they're mounted, they're inset into the actual tailpiece deeper than you would be able to without those slots. They'd be rubbing on the plate.
Right, yeah.
So what you get is more, I think you get more tuning stability when you're bending.
Yeah.
You get more sustain high up.
Oh, wow,
But it's not as... It's pretty
it feels
like different.
That. Yeah.
It feels different than a standard Jazzmaster.
Do you think that's because of the spring underneath being a little bit lighter on this one? Because yours feels like... I mean, it's pretty buttery feeling, man.
It's like 85%.
Yeah.
To me.
Oh.
So, I think...
Oh, that's so in tune. Wow. Guys.
Pretty legit,
that's
right?
Wild, yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. That's a little out, but that's pretty good too.
It's not terrible. Yeah, I feel it. This feels like a normal Jazzmaster.
And that's just kind of always the fight with them, you know? Like they're...
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. Keeping it in tune is... It's pretty close. That's because he's a great guitar player.
I'm just hyper, like anything that sounds out of tune. And we were talking about this, having, you like heavy strings on your electrics because you like to dig in.
Yeah.
But you also come from, correct me if I'm wrong, more of a songwriter background, singer-songwriter than I do. I don't sing.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear me. But, you know.
I actually never have heard him sing.
Yeah,
so.
there's a reason for that. But, you know, being able to go from an acoustic with like 13s or something to an electric, it's easy to sort of grip too hard in the left hand and pull stuff sharp. It's easy to hit too hard here. So heavy strings helps with that, you know?
It's a little bit of a cover-up.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't know if you remember... I'm trying to remember, what was the last, were you David Nail? Was that the last road gig?
That was my last road gig.
Wow, jeez. So I still play on the road a little bit here and there. Obviously, I play my own stuff, and then I play for a gal named Colby Calais when she does full band stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you take over for Jonathan? Or is he
no,
still
Wyndham still plays acoustic.
He does?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Man, so he does almost everything with her.
Yeah.
I probably play 20 shows a year with her because she just doesn't do a ton of big.
She does a bigger band. Yeah.
So I play electric and sing a little bit of harmony with her, but John is there. Jonathan Wyndham, everybody, class act, fantastic singer and player.
Hardest hugger I've ever met.
He means it.
Yeah.
He means it.
He's a big dude, and
Yeah.
he acts like he's like a golden retriever puppy.
He's just freaking
We love
great.
you.
He's also a new dad. He's got twin boys.
That's right.
I think they're coming up on a year old.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, John's awesome. Great player, great singer. He is her MD currently.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. So when, like, how you were already starting to do a bunch of session stuff, kind of like leading up to you finally bailing on the road full time. How long did it take you to get your road left hand and right hand to chill out? Because that is a different thing to me.
Man, I'll be honest, like I've always been the guy who needs to show people he's like, my default is not going crazy. I wasn't as much of a stage performer.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody told me early on, like in high school, like you're a studio guitarist. You
Oh,
know?
wow, yeah,
They
okay.
they didn't mean it as a compliment. They meant that I'd just sit still and I have like resting jerk face when I'm playing.
I don't think that's totally true, but I feel what you're saying. Like, you're more concentrated on what's going on under your hands than trying to make everybody pumped about.
It's all very internal for me.
Yeah.
So I had that working against me as a road guy. But I've always been, I've always gravitated toward having a lighter touch.
Okay.
And trying to make things work under less than ideal conditions. Like light strings tuned down with low action, plain slide.
Yeah.
That's
Golly,
hard, you know?
That's all but impossible for me. Actually, you hit me up with a great slide. There was some great slide advice probably 5 years ago now. We'll get there in a second. But sorry, continue. You're saying.
Yeah.
You kind of came from a lighter touch background anyway.
Yeah. So I was never. I had to learn to like really dig in the right hand.
Interesting.
But the second that I start pulling things sharp, my ear is super sensitive to that. So I would back off or whatever.
You know, it's so funny because like I grew up, you know, like my parents were worship pastors. I grew up listening, and my dad always had, because they were in Nashville, he always had killer players playing for him and stuff like that. So it's like, I always got to hear awesome players playing, but I got into really weird, I'm not going to say like, certainly a lot of indie music, but like me and the Hungate Brothers and Ernest Chapman and Jerry Rowe and all these, like, these were like the kids that I hung out with in Hendersonville, you know, like sons and daughters of music royalty, right?
Totally.
And they were like all kind of at the same time fighting against that. And so they were listening to like, what was that St. Elmo's Fire record, the Brian Eno stuff, and anything pop-centric from the 80s that was left of center. I remember Matt Hungate, Dave Hungate's son, a dear friend of mine, gave me Rain Dogs, the Tom Waits record when I was like 20 years old, right? Yeah. And all of I forget that guitar player's name. Somebody in the comments, please lambast me.
Was it Mark Ribot? Was he on those records?
On the early ones?
I don't know.
That early? Might have been.
That was the name that came
I know he
played. David Lindley.
Yeah.
David Lindley.
Yeah, so I don't remember if it was Ribot that early, because Rain Dogs I think was 83 or 84, but it might have been. Yeah. But, you know, all that stuff was like just sweetly out of tune. It was always like you were just a little...
You hear it and you're like, that's a Sears guitar.
Right, exactly.
Doing the best it can.
Yeah, it's trying real hard.
But it's super cool and musical.
Yeah, and it always felt so neat to me. And the thing about a lot of that stuff, and everybody that's ever stacked a guitar knows this, when there's one guitar part, you can get away with that. Like, it's not gonna... I shouldn't say you can get away with it. It's not gonna ruin the song. The second you get to another guitar part and it's not laser in tune, everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. All of a sudden you see everybody in the room sit up going like, something's out of whack here.
Yeah.
And so many of those records that I loved that were a little odd and a little off had a guitar part, you know? Like they might have somebody, you know, like strumming chords somewhere or something like that, but as far as the part goes, it was just one part. And I always loved that stuff. So like for me, when I started writing, you know, I started out playing drums. Everything was rhythm to me. Oh, and then I started writing songs and kind of started singing, you know, in my late teens. And then everything was about writing songs. So as long as like the song felt cool and the rhythm was rad, that's all my ear wanted to hear.
Yeah.
You know, it was a consequence of, well, I mean, like the Lenning brothers, Kyle Lenning's sons,
Yeah.
Eric and Jordan, they let me be on some sessions early on in my 20s when I was just in a rock band, and they were vicious taskmasters. Like, you know, it's got to be in tune, Brad. And I get it. Like when you're making records, it has to be right. But that was the first time that I ever had somebody calling me out on like, freaking tune your guitar, man. Because everything else was always about like, if the song sounds rad, then it doesn't matter, you know, like it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But when you're making pop music, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
So, and this is like, can I go on my tangent about
100%.
Okay, so I think everybody that's out there in YouTube land would probably agree that vintage instruments have gone through the roof as far as price goes.
Right.
It's been a steady steady ascension for decades now, but in the last 5 or 6 years, it's just been ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
I have a couple old instruments that I'm very proud of, and I treasure them, and I really like them a lot. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for you, but for me, you know, a 60 burst is probably not going to happen for me in my lifetime. Or at least I don't, you know, with my kid now, I don't think I could justify going like, sorry about college, I'm going to go buy this guitar.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm going to go buy a house's worth of guitar.
Right, exactly. I feel like in the last couple of years, guitars like this and guitars like the one that we're about to play have gotten the credit that they finally deserve, because so many of the other ones are unobtainable now. Like, these have always been great guitars.
Yeah.
They've always been some of the best guitars you could buy for the money. Mm-hmm. But there was this like, oh, it's not a real Fender, it's not a real Gibson, it's not a real Gretsch, whatever, insert brand here. They had just got, you know, like real cats could always afford those. Kenny Greenberg has that Strat, right? The 65 Strat that's like beat to heck. He was playing in the King Snakes, I think, in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Like, he even jokes about how he could not afford that guitar now if he were to buy it now. Like, he just wouldn't pay as much money as it's worth.
Right.
You know? But that Jeff Sen Strat that he has, he could get it, and it sounds freaking killer. It's one of the best Strats I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And I think it is it's like they're finally getting like the platform that they deserve and always have deserved for being great guitars. Your Danocasters, your Novos, you know, what's the brothers that are making the Les Paul stuff? I can't remember. Frank Brothers guitars out of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Check them out, dude. They're beautiful.
Is that what Joey Landreth plays?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like, well, I say that. I might be wrong on Joey Landreth. I know, Come On, Let It Go. What's that guy's name?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a singer-songwriter. I know he's playing them a bunch. I think Ariel Posen has one.
Okay.
But they're like beautiful mahogany, like set neck, humbuckery. I mean, they make everything, but like their thing is like trying to do the Les Paul deal.
Yep.
And they are some of the finest sounding guitars I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And for so long, people would buy them. Obviously, they sold, otherwise they wouldn't be a company. But there was always this kind of side eye, like, it's not the real thing.
Right.
And I think now people are starting to not care about that so much.
Yeah.
Because they're just freaking good instruments.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And all of the other real stuff is so untouchable for so many people. I mean, this is what I do for a living, and like, I wouldn't go and spend freaking $45,000 on a 62 Telly right now.
I only have a 55 Telly because it had a body refin.
Oh yeah.
That made it still obnoxiously expensive.
Yeah, even that's wild, man.
I scratched it together, you know.
Yeah.
I have a 69 Les Paul that's pretty straight. Mm-hmm. It's probably worth more than double what I paid.
Isn't that crazy?
At this point. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the old stuff that I have is like, I couldn't, right now, I couldn't really afford to sell them and find anything else that would be comparable. I mean, I guess you could make one-to-one money, but like, I know those guitars already so well.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to go on some adventure to search for something else. Yeah. Because they've accrued so much value in the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, the open secret about vintage instruments is that a lot of them are just dogs.
Yeah, yeah. And that really is the truth. That really is the truth. I've played some 5-figure guitars where I just go like, I don't know why anybody would spend this much money on these things, you know?
Yeah.
And again,
it's because of the way that case smells. When you open it, dude, smell is the most memory triggering sense out there.
Sure.
And I think a lot of these guys I have a theory about the way certain markets increase in value and taper off or whatever. If you look at automobiles, right? So you might have like a 1930s rumble seat Packard coupe, you know, ultra rare. I don't think those are going for as much money as an original 69 SS Chevelle.
Oh, sure.
396, matching numbers and everything. My theory is that that's because the generation with all the disposable income, they were impressionable kids when that Chevelle was rolling by.
Oh, yeah.
And they were impressionable kids when Jimmy Page was at the end of the ego ramp at Madison Square Garden with a burst strung around his knees, wearing a kimono, you know. Just kicking everyone's face in. You know?
He did look cool as crap.
I mean, yeah.
It's rock. I mean, that's like, you know, bad notes aside, that's as rock and roll as it gets right there, dude.
Oh, dude. Just the attitude of not being in tune and the slop. It was greater than the sum of its parts.
For sure. For sure. Well, and I mean, we could go on another tangent about Jimmy Page. I feel like the genius people often accredit him for is maybe not the one that blows my mind about the way that he plays. It was always like making the song the baddest rock and roll song that could ever be.
Well, he started as a session guy.
Oh, right? That's right. In London, right?
He played in different bands. He was in the Yardbirds early on.
I did know that.
He went after a bunch of different styles. Like his like kind of Celtic alternate tuning acoustic stuff is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Still one of my favorite slide solos of all time is What Is and What Should Never Be.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean,
okay.
Everything's so good.
Yeah.
And the techniques in the studio were, you know, masterful art, songwriting, tones, craft. And then live, it was like, let's just melt everyone's brains.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's funny because I was in a three-piece rock band for years. And even now, like when I play my stuff live, like I feel like that should kind of be the ethos. I was talking to a buddy about tracks, a guy that me and Bobby actually just finished his record, a guy named Will Overman, great Americana AAA artist.
Yeah.
And he was talking about like really not wanting to go the track route, but like the production on the stuff is certainly bigger than the three guys that he takes on the road with him, right?
Totally.
And I'm not going to knock anybody for it. I feel like there's space for that. I think it can be done elegantly and well. And I think a lot of times it is, but I think a lot of times it's silly too, because it's like, you know, freaking Led Zeppelin. It was a dude singing, holding on to not nary an instrument in sight, and then three guys filling stadiums full of the meanest, nastiest freaking mason jar full of bumblebees that you could ever wrangle together in one spot.
Right.
And I think that's a cool thing. I think it's cool to go like, these are the limitations that we have right now. Let's make them not limitations and just make it rock and roll and fun.
Yeah.
There again, this is waxing philosophically about stuff that probably nobody cares about. But as a person who's played my own music on the road for years and years, other people's music on the road for years and years, and then now half a decade of playing on records as well, records and standing on a stage are very different things. And people are
completely
coming to see it or coming to listen to it for a very different thing.
Yeah.
And I don't mind them being different. I think it's cool, you know?
I was never mad about the fact that there were 5 or 6 guitar parts on my artist's songs.
Yeah.
And I was the only guy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's really like,
it's kind of challenging and fun.
It's going the opposite direction. The session guy and the live guy are passing each other on the same highway, but going different places, going to each other's places, right?
Yeah.
Like the live guy has to take all of those tracks and decide what's the most important thing at each section of the song.
Sure,
you know? So I'm going to play the intro hook.
Right.
First verse, you know, we're talking about like pop, rock bands, Americana, you know. There's sort of a standard structure, you know.
Yeah.
So you're gonna tighten everything up in first verse, really let the vocal set the stage. In the first chorus, you've got to fill bandwidth.
Right.
If you're the only guy.
Yeah.
If that means power chords, then great. If that means delay and some like open string, like say you've got to, instead of just. That sounds great, by the way.
Yeah.
Man. Instead of just doing that, maybe you're going.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
But you
even
gotta-
if it's not on the record, like it's still something that's going to be compelling and interesting to listen to and fill space.
It's got to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get back to your hook, and then your solo. Like my thing is that when I'd start playing single notes after being like real big chord guy.
Isn't that a little terrifying though? That like until you get used to it, because you're you got this big swell of chords behind you, and then it's gone, and you're just playing the solo.
Yeah. Fuzz pedal helps.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just like make every single note be as big as possible. You know?
Sure. Well, and I guess that speaks to your ability to like stay in the moment, whereas I'd hit the fuzz pedal and just be like waving my head all over the place and like about to get on my knees, and then it's time to come down to the down bridge, and I forgot to turn my fuzz pedal off, you know, and so I just start squalling in the middle of this moment when the singer's trying to be really intimate and quiet.
Yeah.
Even if the singer's me.
Dude, my favorite thing to do was to go play some show in town, like at the Basement or the Old Family Wash.
Oh yeah, man.
And there would be a
lineup
of a bunch of people playing like 2 or 3 songs.
Sure.
I remember one time I did a Jeff Buckley tribute with
cool.
Shannon LaBrie. Do you know her? She's a great singer-songwriter.
Shannon LaBrie.
L-A, capital B, R-I-E. Yeah. I played on a record for her. I played on a couple things for her, but there was one called War and Peace that...
Love the title.
She wanted it to be like Pink Floyd meets Hendrix.
Oh, wow.
And do whatever you want. And so I played my deluxe reverb. I played a Mike Landau Strat, and
that kind of pink reddish one that you had, the Fiesta red one.
It's Fiesta over burst.
That's right.
Which his 63, when they would botch a burst, they'd go ahead and paint a solid color over them. But
that was a great guitar.
Yeah. So on that record, it was all just, I don't know. It was almost like a guitar record. Like she wanted. Extended solos, extended outros. She was like, contribute, you know, whatever you want to do. Let's play like we're a band. It was really cool, and it came out great. But
Shannon LaBrie, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So the point of what I was trying to get to is, I would go and play my Jeff Santelli into my '66 Princeton Reverb.
Yeah.
With only a fuzz pedal and a headstock tuner. And so everybody's getting up with their pedal boards and I was like checking everything, and I'm tap dancing through the show, and that's fine, you know.
Sure.
And then they'd see me get up, and I'd put well, I would use a jumper cable and leave the pedal on top of the amp.
Oh yeah, just leave it on.
It was just on.
Yeah.
And I would
volume knob.
Absolutely. So, and it was so big and loud, and I had so many young guitar players going, "Dang, man."
Oh yeah.
You got me like rethinking my life. Why do I have so many knobs?
Dude, it's liberating. So like, so my pal Brooke, another great female singer, she did a run of shows opening up for Garth Brooks in stadiums, right? Mm-hmm. And they were always, I was her MD for a couple of years, and then moved on to a few other acts while she kind of took a break. And she asked me to do these run of shows. And, you know, it's like, first of all, it's Garth Brooks and his band. And those, in case anybody's wondering, those people are on that stage for a reason. They are fantastic players. And all the nicest people that you've ever been around, ever. Yeah. So is Garth. But the first show, like, it was going to be a renegade show up for me. I think I was in New York trying to figure out how I was going to get a bunch of gear there. They had a deluxe backline for me. And all I could figure out that I could hold on to, other than like complicatedly meeting up with one of their gear trucks before it left town and putting a big rig in there and stuff like that, was basically this that's on the ground, the micro. And I had a tuner, a Noble.
Noble's Overdrive?
Oh yeah, ODR1. The MXR boost, the silver one, whatever it is, the tune-up thing.
Yeah.
And the TC micro, the blue delay and the blue reverb. Yeah. And that was all that I had on that board in front of, I think the smallest audience was like 75,000 people, you know? And that was just all that I could. I was doing other gigs with another artist. I had an acoustic guitar, and I think 2 acoustic guitars actually. And then I had to carry that with me to get to meet up with them. Yeah. And that was all I could get my brain around. So I learned all these. Oh, and there was a tremolo pedal on there too. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I know you don't go anywhere without a tremolo.
No, man. I don't think I've turned tremolo off since I started playing guitar.
That's fair.
And that's Buddy Miller's fault, man. Like, that guy is the vibrato and tremolo king. I just think I've always thought, again, a little left to center, kind of odd player, just So
Yeah.
cool. But a great player, too. Just down the middle as well. Anyway, but it is like, I had to have delay and reverb for that. But like, honestly, if it weren't for like a couple of her more poppy tracks, I probably could have gotten away with that gig with just the Noble.
Totally.
You know? And it's like, you learn to, you know, we spend so much of our lives when we're young thinking like, oh man, I gotta get it's the next piece of gear, it's the next thing. I feel like everybody at a certain point has a revelation that like, I mean, this is where all the sound, this is the sound. This is like what people expect. It's right here in this thing, and it's right there in that thing. And when you turn it up loud enough and you hit a big chord, everybody knows what that feels like. It is intrinsic to the human experience at this point.
Yeah.
And it's, you got to know what you're doing to get it to work. It's easy to be halfway there and have a bunch of crap on the ground and kind of make that work. And the second you start peeling stuff back, it exposes your lack more and more. But I think the more you get used to playing that way, I mean, shoot, dude, even now I feel like on, you know, I bring my big stupid board to sessions and stuff like that I, you know, like I paid to have somebody else put together because it was the smart thing to do, and I'm glad for it.
It probably was.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. No more buzzes. It's quiet.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
All your cables work.
Yeah. Man, no, never like hearing an amp growl at me or anything like that.
Which George L's failed this
Yeah.
time?
Oh God, George L's. That was. Do they still make George L's?
They do. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, everybody's got a solderless kit at this point. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mess with them.
And no offense to anybody that uses them, I still use them occasionally on my little overdub board that I keep at home if I'm just throwing something new on there. It's just easy and fast.
Yeah.
But, you know, even with that big stupid board that I have, I start out with just my Princeton up and reverb on. And that's like, that's immediately where like, every time I go there and someone puts a mic on it or I'm plugged into an aux or whatever, that's where I start, usually with that guitar. And I love it because almost always an engineer or producer goes, well, that sounds great. And you know you're in a good place there.
It's like, what's everybody's favorite bread?
Yeah.
It's sourdough.
Yeah.
Flour, water, salt.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally made my daughter toast with sourdough bread this morning. And as she is a 3-year-old girl, and that is her favorite thing to eat.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's right. It is. But there's also, I think that's the magic of it, is there's like me going like this, you know. The way I play it on a guitar, it still sounds different when you do the same thing, you know, like it's exposing in all the ways that you want it to be.
Yeah. And
it's a personal thing, no matter how much of a chameleon or how much you try and hide. Like, it still sounds like you doing that thing.
Man, the minimalist sound, that was the biggest lesson I ever learned in my life was working with one of our heroes, JT Cornfloss.
Oh, jeez. Legend.
And he had a pedal board at his feet, but he didn't use anything. Like,
really?
It was a tuner.
Yeah.
It was basically a giant tuner that his cartridge guy set up.
Yeah.
That was it. And he played that blue telly, which we called the gig getter.
Yeah.
Because
Legend.
in his hands, it got him the gig.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
it never sounded wrong.
Right.
He had the orange Gretsch, too, right? The Country Gentleman, is that what that was?
And he had a Russ Paul Strat, Seafoam Green Russ Paul.
I don't think I ever saw that, but...
Like a 57 copy,
Yeah.
Strat copy, that sounded incredible. But his thing was guitar chord amp.
Yeah.
And he inspired me so much. I remember hearing him checking his guitar and thinking in my ears, like, okay, that sounds good, but it's kind of ratty. And then... like I didn't quite get it.
Sure,
I didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
And then I went into the control room because it was his turn to lay the solo and I had finished my parts. I went into the control room and the engineer had us panned and he had the system cranked pretty well. And his guitar sounded like it weighed 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Getting that actual like edge of breakup, interaction with the amp, letting the amp's input impedance see your pickups directly.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, man.
And it inspired me so much that I stopped taking a pedal board to sessions for a while. I would have like a little delay that could do.
Did a producer crap his pants every time you showed up?
A couple people were like, "Hey man, did you forget something?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I really didn't. I've got this tape echo with me. I've got real reverb.
Yeah.
Like, if we need to do the weird, if we need to lean on the pattern delay thing,
Part
like,
stuff.
Great, yeah, I'll put that down. But just check out the way this sounds.
Oh yeah, man.
And that ever since the biggest. The biggest tones I get are when the board's not in the way.
Yeah.
And people get on the talkback, they're like, "That sounds great. What is that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, actually, I unplugged from the pedal board and went straight into the amp and turned it up."
Yeah, it's wild, man. I think that's another thing that's a bummer about. I'm sorry, were you finished, Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's another thing that is. Speaking of aux boxes, that is something that has been cool recently. I love mine.
Yeah, we were talking about those before we started filming a little bit.
Game changer. But
I'm still giving one away.
Get in now, guys. I literally was in my garage. Like I stole mine out of my room at the studio a little bit ago. I had to get some parts done and just didn't have time. I asked my studio roommate if he needed it and took it home, woke up at 4:30 the next morning and went into my garage with my Princeton and that guitar and laid down parts for an hour just into my interface at home. And there's actually a video of it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Of Revy, my daughter, knocking on the door at like 5:45 or something like that and walking in and hearing me play this part. But all you hear is me playing and that's literally just the acoustics. Oh yeah, sorry. And she walks in as I'm like doing this sig lick thing and all of a sudden stares at the camera and is just being kind of silly. But yeah, but they're indistinguishable to me at this point. And honestly, like the room feature on the aux thing makes it feel like you're playing in a garage again. It just feels cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I find that like I've always been highly resistant to modeling because as a, when you're playing on somebody's record or doing your own record or just working on tracks, you feel like you need to live in that last few % that the modelers can't quite get to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm being paid to do this. Let's try to be as classic and organic and
yeah. Bring the big stuff. Bring all the guitars. Do the thing.
Yeah, we want it to sound expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've talked about this on my channel before, but I don't mind the modeling if there's still a real tube amp involved.
It's weird, right? And specifically, I think Boss makes one now. Is it the Torpedo? Saul's been using
Two notes.
Two notes, yeah. I know Saul's really big on those.
I'm getting ready to sell mine.
Yeah,
I just use the aux all the time.
Yeah, my only beef with them is you have to get one for every impedance. They only make them for it's 4, 8, or 16, right?
Well, there's a 2-space studio version that's so much more expensive.
Okay.
I have the 1-space Torpedo Live.
Yeah.
And it's an 8 ohm impedance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to spring for the other one that takes up twice as much room in your rack, it actually has the selectable impedance on it.
So. Well, so I go back and forth between a Bandmaster, a Bassman, and a Princeton a lot. And they're, 4 or 8. And like you can do the 8 thing on the Bassman for sure. It just doesn't
changes the headroom.
Yeah, it just doesn't like it as much,
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But you were talking about plugging in to an amp and turning it up. Like, these days, if I'm doing a live thing, especially my own stuff at a club, a lot of the places that I play are 100 seats or whatever. I'm doing a show at the Underdog, actually, on December 5th. Yeah, come if you can, dude.
Man,
are you out of town?
The 5th. I'm here.
Come if you can, dude. It'll be fun.
I would only be going to Kansas. I don't tour anymore.
Sure, yeah.
But what
come.
day of the week is that?
Oh, I don't know. Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
Thursday? Yeah.
Will you please remind me?
I will. It'll be a blast. I mean, I'm pretty sure Bobby will be there. It'll either be Sean Savacool on bass, or I've even talked about bugging Tim Denbo. I don't know if I could pull that kind of a favor from Tim on a Thursday night, but I might try. But I know it'll be probably Caleb playing drums.
Yeah. How's he doing, man?
Killing it, man.
Yeah. He's great drummer, producer.
Yeah.
They're good friends. I've worked with
Class
Caleb
act. I'm actually, I'm hoping that I can go. He's running a 100-miler this weekend. Yeah. And I'm hoping to go and pace him for it. So,
dude.
Yeah.
Do you know Jason Cheek?
I don't. Wait.
We've talked about Jason a lot.
You
guys need to meet.
Does he go to your church?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
He's one of the greatest, most solid dudes, total sweetheart.
Okay.
Amazing drummer. Like straight ahead jazz to... I consider his pop and Americana and approach to the Nashville thing very similar to Fred.
Oh, yeah.
He's like a young Fred Eltringham.
Jeez, I love Fred.
Right now, he's playing on some tracks for me for my next course, actually.
Nice.
Look for that.
Yeah, little plug.
Yeah.
Also, they're great, by the way, guys. Like I said, I've been doing this for most of my life, and it is a wealth of knowledge that you're staring at here. So check the stuff out. It's good stuff.
Man,
yeah.
You're earning that money. I paid you to say that.
I'm just pumped to be here. I'm having a blast.
But it reminded me what you said, because Jason paced a buddy of his for a 100-miler.
Yeah.
He paced him for 26 miles or something.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's the same thing I'm probably going to do with Caleb.
It's amazing to me. It like takes almost an entire day.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you walk, you stop to eat, and there are stations. Jason said what was so amazing about his buddy's race, which I think was in North Georgia.
Was it the Georgia Death Race?
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's a vicious race. Man.
Yeah. But he said that when the two of them would come to these way stations where they had food and drinks
Aid
and
stations
stuff,
is what we call them. And
there's the lingo.
Yeah, aid station.
But man, there would be a dozen people there. The second they see your headlamps coming in the woods, they go nuts.
Yeah, they surround you like bees. It's crazy.
Oh man, he said it was so great, and he just watching his friend go from like pure suffering, like the purest, most distilled suffering you could inflict upon yourself, to like it changed his gait. It changed everything, like the chemicals in his body. You know, like he became different.
It's it's a wild thing. Like Caleb and I are in a band with Kyle Whalum called DFL, and we just released.
Kyle's a ultramarathoner too, right?
Yeah. So we made a documentary, a documentary company called Blackfit Productions made it on us running the Pinhoti 100 4 or 5 years ago. And so me, Caleb, and Kyle all were able to run it together by some miracle. So Kyle Whalum, if anybody doesn't know, is one of my favorite bass players in the world. He's currently playing for Katy Perry, but has also played for...
that's right, yeah, because he moved out to L.A., right?
Yeah.
He's also great guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think we worked together once or twice.
Yeah, Kyle's awesome. He left town with the Kelly Clarkson show, I feel like right as he was about to... I mean, he made the right decision. L.A. is a great place for Kyle.
Yeah.
I hate it because he's one of my best friends in the world and one of my favorite bass players. Probably my favorite bass player, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But we became friends because we were both in indie rock bands forever ago, and then started running together a ton, and really became friends running. But Kyle got me into ultra stuff. Then Caleb met Kyle. We were like, we should just like jam, like we never jam anymore. So we started this stupid band, and then signed up for for this ultra together. And this guy heard about it. He makes documentaries in town, and he was like, "Yo, this is crazy. You guys have to let me follow you." We were like, well, while we're making this thing, we might as well do the soundtrack. So we cut a record at Pentaveret. It's funny because I hadn't heard the tracks in a while. You should check it out. Some of them are pretty vicious rock tunes. Like it's Kyle and Caleb as a rhythm section is pretty mean.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the record's called the documentary is called Rhythm in the Darkness. Record by the same title. The band's called DFL.
Where can you find the documentary?
YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Right here on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description for sure.
Yeah, so, but anyway, it kind of follows us running this 100-miler through the woods, and you see, it was Caleb's first time. Kyle and I had both run, I think, 300s at that point, and you were talking about seeing a person change. Like, you get to this place in these races where you're just like, I can't move anymore. It becomes not just physically impossible, it becomes emotionally impossible, it becomes everything impossible. And you somehow just keep going, and then you get to the end and you're like, that's...
Then you hear David Goggins' voice in your mind.
Every expletive on the planet. Get up, no off days.
Yeah.
So, but it's a crazy thing, man.
Yeah. Man, you're inspiring me. You make me want to run more.
Dude, it's a good time. I mean, any of it's good. I did 3 or 4 miles yesterday just because it was all I had time for.
I'm good for about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then I just need to do it a lot more. I have a buddy who is a huge CrossFitter. He's pushed me to get more and more in shape.
Yeah.
And so I get up really early and I lift weights in my garage.
I was gonna say you're a weightlifter, right? Like that's kind of your thing.
I kind of have been for
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I waited till my 40s to start caring, you know. But
Sure.
I've fixed every issue in my body. I had a tennis elbow in this arm.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
rid of it completely.
Really?
I used to throw my back out and have lower back and core problems.
Yeah, man.
They're gone.
Wow.
I'm doing deadlifts 3 times a week, and then
Dude, I
different
just
upper body days.
just
and-
got into the deadlift game.
Yeah.
Like in the last couple years, I really like it. It's helped me a lot with my lower back too.
100%.
I don't know if it's the running thing that having such tight hamstrings or what the deal was, but I was the same. I'd throw my back out a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Limber hamstrings is a big deal.
Yeah, dude, it helps. And something about maybe the stretching before and after deadlift stuff along with the deadlift, like it's.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, dude.
Yeah.
I've always lifted for vanity's sake, just because like if I don't, I get like super scrawny and bird check. Just because I like running so much, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
if you want to look cool, running is not really the way
How
to
do
do
I
it.
learn to like running? Like, I don't at all.
Yeah, you know
What is it?
Man, I don't know, dude. For me, when I was really young, like in my teens, I'm not exactly a giant now, in case anybody was wondering, and having a collegiate basketball playing wife, you know, like who is I'm gonna say an inch taller than me, but
My wife had a full ride for volleyball.
no way.
Dude, we both married jocks.
Gosh, wow, look at that. It's a beautiful thing though, right?
It is. It's so great.
Your wife is so lovely too, man. She's a class act, dude.
Yeah,
but
she's great.
Yeah,
we need to hang.
I know we should, man.
Yeah.
She's a great lady too. She's just fantastic in every way. But you know, like, so I was like pretty short and, you know, not exactly the leanest thing in the world in my early mid-teens. And my dad's like, you know, this big strapping firefighter dude, and all my cousins are that same way. And I'm like, you know, like, well, this is not a good look on anybody, right? So I just kind of started in my teens, and then got pretty good at it. I got pretty fast and didn't really know that was a thing. I was always the guy playing drums 6 hours a day in my room, you know?
Right.
And then just, I think it was a consequence of being that age, getting pretty good at it pretty quickly, and having people tell me that I was good at it. And then also, like, the way my brain works, I really like it just for focus. You know, like I have a lot of trouble focusing. And it was a discipline that made that a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
see, I've loved running specifically for that thing, and then also just like, you know, we live in East Nashville. There's a running club in East Nashville called East Nasty. It's like a legendary old running club that's been around since 2002. Every Wednesday night since 2002, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and just made some lifelong dear friends there. And also, I love being in the woods. So when the trail running thing happened, it just like gave me that fix as well. You know, it's kind of a cool, weird way to get into it. But yeah, if you want to get a deep dive into how weird ultra running is, check out the documentary. It's called Rhythm in the Darkness, and it's a wild ride.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Man, I want to hear you play some more. I'm gonna play something. And I want you to play over it. So let's just see what. And I want to hear on my guitar, and then I'm gonna give you my Novo. You a middle position guy mostly?
On almost everything,
Yeah.
tellies included.
Yeah.
Like, I love my, so like, I think the thing I love about Jazzmasters, gosh, this guitar sounds so good, dude. I think the thing I love about Jazzmasters is I don't feel like you could ever trick anybody to thinking that was an SG, you know? But you could get close.
Totally.
You know, like, does this one have the 1 meg pot up front too, do you know?
That's a good question.
So most Jazzmasters historically had, you know, it was like the Leo Fender trying to be hi-fi thing. They had a 1 meg pot up front, which I think is what gets a lot of people annoyed with how bright they are. And I forget, I think it was a 500 in the tone. But like, because of the full range nature of these pickups, I feel like you can darken them up pretty, like even that, just like 2 clicks back on the tone, right? That's a different sound all of a sudden.
My bridge settings, I'm often around 5 on the
on tone, yeah. When I play live on that one, I'm usually around 5 as well.
Oh yeah.
It's super smooth, right? Like,
Yeah, that's killer.
And so, you know, but
What a difference.
Yeah, for me, where the Jazzmaster thing really comes alive is the middle stuff. It's just so cool. It doesn't buzz, you
Very
know.
signature.
Like, yeah, and I love it. So that's where I usually live on them.
Let me grab this Novo.
Yeah, totally, dude. So years ago, this is probably 5 years ago now. I'm not sure if you were still at Pentaveret. You had the front room in Pentaveret for a while.
For like 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Everybody stopped coming to observe and produce while I was tracking.
Yeah.
And so the room, it was
Just didn't
pointless.
matter, yeah.
They were just like, I trust you.
Yeah.
Just email me stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm
totally.
like, well, I'm going to do this at home.
Yeah. No, totally.
And save the rent.
Right. Right. Yeah. But like, I remember it was right when I was first trying to like be home more and do the session thing, and I was kind of like coming at you with my woes of like such a terrible slide player, and I still don't consider myself a slide player by. Oh, there was even that session we were on. I think you were playing acoustic, and Rob McNelly was playing A guitar. I was playing B, and the producer was like, "Hey, he goes, hey Brad, can we do a slide part on this song?" And I was like, I remember like, wanting to pull my headphones off and look at the control. I'm like, you have Rob McNelly sitting right there.
Yeah.
You want me to do the slide part?
Don't
It's
make
like,
this wrong Guitar Player Wednesday.
yeah,
you know?
first of all, I refuse. Second, I don't want Rob to hear me play slide.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But around that, well, that was well after that. But when I was first trying to kind of dive in to the session stuff and just embarrassed at my slide playing all the time, you said 2 things, because I think at the time I was trying to do the Joey Lander thing and wear it on my pinky so I could do chords behind it.
Yeah.
And you were like, no offense to anybody that plays that way, truly.
Yeah.
But for me, I think you just saw the writing on the wall. And you were like, how often when you're playing a slide part do you really need to play a bunch of complicated stuff behind the slide? You might need to grab something here or there, but you could probably grab it with your pinky and put the slide on your ring finger and be good to go.
Yeah.
And that changed a bunch for me. All of a sudden, intonation became easier. Everything became easier. You also said, learn how to play slide on any setup, because you're not always you can't have a slide guitar. Like a producer might go, hey, yeah, I love the way that part sounds, but can you do it on your Supro? You know, I usually bring 2 or 3 weird guitars to sessions just because I like them.
Yeah.
And those guitars sound great with slide. And if you can't play slide on any other kind of action, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
And then the thing that blew my mind the most was the first thing you said. I was like, it's like, I've just tried and I cannot get slide stuff right. I've tried in open tunings, I've tried in standard, blah, blah. And you go, how much do you actually practice slide? And I was like, I think a lot. And he's like, how much did you practice guitar when you first started playing guitar? I was like, every day, all the time. I was like, compared to that, how much have you played slide? And I had to like basically admit to myself that nowhere close. I hadn't practiced slide anywhere close to as much as I had just been practicing regular guitar, because you think it's guitar, right? It's still guitar. So like I should just be able to do it, but it's really a different instrument in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it was really inspiring to me to kind of like dive into it that way. Again, I don't call myself a slide guitar player by any stretch of the imagination, but just having to play parts and stuff like that on records, you just got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And it took 6 months probably, but once I got a little more comfy, I'm fine, you know, like getting something down and even going for the ragged solo here or there with super wide sloppy vibrato or something like that. Like, I'm not terrified or embarrassed of my slide ability anymore.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. For me, it's like that, the ring finger thing, I talk about this in one of my videos, it's in line with the forearm bone that doesn't move.
I remember you talking about that.
When you rotate your wrist.
And that did save a lot of the intonations or the tuning stuff for me. All of a sudden I went from fighting my pinky all the time. Yeah. And you could hear it get in and out of tune, but it never felt right. You know, like so much of slide is listening and feel. Yeah. And I could hear it, but I could never feel it right. Yeah. And the second that I went back to my ring finger, which was kind of always the instinct anyway, it just felt better again. Yeah. You know,
Derek Trucks is a ring finger guy.
Oh, is he?
Blake Mills is a ring finger guy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
Joey Landreth plays. Like, I don't know, it's like if your last name's Landreth, you're good at pinky slide. Sonny Landreth was just
Sonny, what a monster.
The pyrotechnics of what he would do are so freaking cool.
Well, and solo gain, too, most of the time. Like, I feel like his slide stuff while singing like a bird, you know, and having a cigarette hang out of his mouth and looking cool as crap doing it. Don't smoke, kids.
Yeah.
But,
it's so not cool.
Yeah, it's really not. Okay, so this thing, Novo with P90s, right?
Yes, sir. Fralin P90s. Yeah, what do you think?
Let's see. That's rock and roll, right?
It's so nice.
Started a groove on the 4, but it felt cool. A backwards 12 bar for anybody who wanted to hear it. Yeah. No, this thing's freaking killer, dude. I love it. And I think like that really aggressive, again, I have a pretty heavy right hand for the most part I'm working on, but. Is this a slab board too? Or is it a laminate?
You gotta look at the other way. I think it's I don't know.
Oh, it's slab.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it, man. I love that, dude. It feels really cool. There's something that's really solid feeling.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of my Gold Tops DNA in it.
Oh yeah?
With the straight up P90s, like check the neck pickup out. It's real smoky and
That's great, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
I also can't believe how light this thing is.
It's roasted pine.
Oh, pine.
The body. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, weren't the really early Snakehead Tellys pine?
That's a good question, probably.
I think they were.
I'm not as much of a historian as a lot of people.
I think they were. And I know a lot of people avoided pine because it's softer.
I think so.
Than ash and alder?
I built a dining table out of pine. It's soft. Okay. I can see what my kids wrote through their paper.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of cool to have it broken in like that.
Well, and I love how you can see the grain on it, too. What's this middle guy sound like?
A little thicker.
Ooh, yeah.
But it's got the chime, but it's got all the woolliness of the P90 around it.
You know, I feel like P90s are kind of that like holy grail middle section. Our buddy Bobby again, he's got is your Gold Top 2 P90s?
It is,
yeah. He's got an SG that I think you've played, maybe the
Oh
reddish
yeah,
one.
yeah. When I work over there, I usually keep that in the rack.
Dude.
The classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a killer guitar.
Yeah.
And you can just about chicken pick on it and get it convincing, and you can really rock on it too.
Totally.
I don't know if I've ever had to play it in something where you needed like stratty, really chimey stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's
I bet
chimey
you,
in the middle.
I bet you could get there.
What's different about those is that the neck pickup is closer to the bridge. The pickups are closer together.
In the SGs?
Than on a gold top or something.
Okay.
So there's a uniqueness to the chime, and the neck pickup's a little bit clearer, I think. So anyway.
I love this, dude. I also
Yeah.
love the way it plays.
Yeah.
Are these
They're
like
built in town.
Novos
I've toured the
are.
factory. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're fantastic guitars.
Wow. No, and I honestly I think this looks classic. I think it obviously it feels great. These are like Gibson size frets though, right? Are they?
Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Flatter radius,
I was gonna
9.5
say,
radius, I
I
think.
love the way the radius feels. I love this big, chonky headstock. And then again, just that, I mean, that's like beautiful
Yeah.
sound. And this tremolo is great. This is, what's this thing called again?
That's a Descendant.
Descendant, okay.
Yeah. So it gives you more sustain. It kind of it creates more pressure on the saddles, so you don't lose as much energy to string vibrations back here. This one was still a little bit noisy, and I could hear it through the pickups, so I put a piece of foam there.
Man, I was worried about that on my Jazzmaster, and I did it. My Jaguar, and I did it. And on the Jag, it lost the vibe to me.
Yeah.
You know, like they're so jangly and clangly and just...
Like you turned off the built-in reverb.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like I did it and I was like, it doesn't feel cool anymore to me. This still sounds great, obviously. I love this thing, man. It's freaking rad.
These are both great guitars.
Yeah.
Yours is fantastic too.
Thanks, dude.
Hey,
I really like it.
before our cameras ran out of battery, I wanted to ask you about the voice. And
Oh, yeah.
How did you get involved in that? And your team Snoop Dogg. So
Yeah, it was wild.
yeah, I
man.
watched your performance. It was really great.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's crazy because of all the things that I've done, which like I've been on big stages, for most of my adult life, and spent a lot of life, like recording in a can and doing all, like most versions of music. I've never done anything like that. It is a weird kind of pressure cooker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even you've played on like late night TV shows and stuff like
Totally,
that, right?
yeah.
Yeah, like
It's been a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it's even different than that. It's a wild experience. So my wife signed me up for it. She didn't even tell me.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so Rebecca signed me up for it. This one day, literally, she showed up home. We had just built our new house. I think I was actually working on a track. Downstairs, I didn't have my little setup set up yet, so I was just like, I had my laptop on the kitchen table and I was playing a track, and she goes, "Hey, go put on some decent looking clothes. You gotta, I gotta log into this portal and you have to audition for The Voice." And I'm thinking like, yeah, right, whatever. They want some 37-year-old dad from Nashville on The Voice. Like, you're out of your mind. 37 at the time. But I did it, and the can kept getting kicked down the road until finally they were like, yeah, here's the contracts. Come to LA. And I just was like, there's no way. This is the wildest thing.
Yeah.
Then you go to LA and you're there for a while. And you work on 90 seconds of music for the longest time that I've ever dived into 90 seconds of music.
Wow.
It was insane. Rehearsed with the band, the whole thing. And then you go to this audition and you're just sitting and, there's a lot to it. It's a wild time. But they just kind of pipe you into this corral and you're in this dark black room with the big V on it. If anybody's seen the show, they know where you walk out of, or the doors that you walk out of.
Yeah.
And they call your name, go out there, and you hope to God that you're not the person that just is a professional musician and has nobody care about what they do. And it's mostly been a really great experience, man. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool to get to be around some of those cats. Snoop is oddly musical and really cool. His whole team that's around him are all great people as well. A lot of the people that I met, like contestants on the show, have become really great friends. We played a ton of shows together.
Yeah.
Made a lot of music together. I'm actually recording the second song that I did on the show with a guy named Jake Tankersley, who's really great as well. And we're gonna drop that, I think, in the next couple weeks. He's singing his vocal in Tulsa. He's in Tulsa.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, it was really crazy. It was like I never want to stop learning, obviously, but I didn't think there were lessons for me to learn in that capacity, like feeling still a little bit foreign. You know, it's big TV, it's big production, it's a giant stage. The monitors were built under the stage, but it's also this massive room, and they have them over your head. So I would even probably, maybe a little, obviously arrogantly at this point, say that there's not much that phases me about like not hearing myself. I've spent plenty of my life not hearing anything that I'm doing, but this was a different version of that, because it was like wildly loud but hollow. Have you ever experienced that, where there's like, you feel a bunch of sound pressure around you, but you can't hear the middle of your note anywhere for some reason? I think it must be a physical thing, but I knew that it was really loud, even when we did the band rehearsals and stuff.
Is it kind of like being on stage with in-ears on, but you're only hearing the house through your ears and feeling the subs?
Very similar, similar. Yeah, like when you can't hear, specifically with pitch, where you like can't hear the middle of what you're aiming at.
Yeah.
And with singing, a lot of time, especially when you're singing background vocals, but like for me, when if you're trying to flirt with a note at all and like go a little bit flat or a little bit sharp and then come back to it, which is just a cool kind of effect, if you don't feel where the middle of that note is, it's really hard to get back there quickly.
Yeah.
And it was like that. It was just very empty feeling.
Wow.
Even with all the volume around you. So
you just don't feel an anchor.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. But yeah, so did that, ended up on Snoop's team, got to learn a pretty good bit from him, man. Like, it was more than just music. He's just such a opportunist is not the right word. He's always looking for a cool thing to do and always looking for a smart thing to do. You know, like, he always wants to be creating something cool, and he always wants to be doing something smart.
Yeah.
And I've not exploited both of those parts of my brain in my life at the same time.
That's cool.
You know, so that was a cool lesson to learn from him.
What's next for you on The Voice? Is it
so
you done filming, or?
Yeah, so I'm done filming. My last episode, I think, has either aired, depending on when this comes out, has either aired or will be done here pretty soon. And then like I said, I'm recording that track with my buddy Jake. I'm gonna record some new stuff for myself. I have 2 records out. Yeah. One called Rhinestones and Broken Bones, where that Jazzmaster came into play. Yeah. Yeah, and then another one called Ghosts of a Love.
I'm gonna grab it real quick.
Yeah, please. But yeah, so we recorded this guy a couple years ago, and
thank you for the gift.
Man.
This is vinyl. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I have a record player, so I'm gonna be really excited to put this on.
Yeah, Bobby mixed that. We made it together. Dan Scheich mastered it, and it's a fantastic sounding record. I'm really proud of it.
That's awesome, man.
Bunch of great players.
Yeah.
So gonna get back to making some new music. I think this next round, I've been writing a lot of sad songs. Yeah. I don't know if I've just been really enjoying writing songs again. I shouldn't say sad songs. I've been doing a lot of singer-songwritery stuff. Like when I sit down with a guitar to just write, like a lick isn't immediately coming to my brain.
Right.
A song is kind of coming to my brain.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was even talking to my buddy Eddie Dunlap. You know Eddie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic steel player. I was on the road with Eddie for years and then play on records with him all the time now. But even kind of thinking like I might cut 5 or 6 tracks, just me and him with a click track, start there and then see what songs need what after that, you know?
Cool.
Just live in the room with an acoustic guitar and a mic and him playing steel. He's so creative in a way that I'm not. Like, I think most things rhythmically first.
Yeah.
And if I start building a track by myself where like I have the lick that I want inside of a rhythm or inside of a pattern, everything's kind of subservient to that from the jump.
Cool.
You know? Whereas like I feel like somebody like Ed might start it in just a more melodic space musically, and then that would set the tone for kind of the rest of what's going on there.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so playing shows this next year, you know, again doing some full band stuff with Colby. Not on the road much. I still love playing on the road for friends. Whenever anybody asks me to do it and makes it worth it, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not, unless it's my thing, I'm not necessarily looking to road dog it again hard. You know, like you know, with kids, like it's just tough.
Yeah.
And I like being around for Revy, my daughter. She's pretty awesome. So.
Very cool.
So yeah. Next for me is I'm gonna start recording some new stuff. Again, and if anybody is around in town on December 5th, come to the Underdog. It's one of the coolest guitar clubs in town now, basically.
Dude, it's like Nashville's little baked potato.
It is wild.
They call it the fried potato.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I can't remember who it was that told me I was at Pentaveret working on some overdubs for Bobby for something. Honestly I can't even remember. But when I realized that it really had gotten there was when somebody on that session was like, Mike Landau is going to be at the Underdog tonight. I was like, what?
I was there, man.
You were?
Absolutely.
I didn't go. I literally live across the street from it. I live, you know, about 2 football fields away from it.
So you're right by my favorite Mexican restaurant.
Jalisciense?
Yeah.
Jalisciense?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of
Oh
that
yeah,
place.
dude. It's great. That's actually, I've seen you there a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if I don't plan well and I get like hangry around 3 or something in the afternoon, it's the call that I make. 3 tacos,
Dude.
let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's cheap and awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the voice stuff is great. I think I'm on another little bit of it. I made it about halfway through the season and had a killer time, man. And then like next is recording new music and playing on anybody's record that'll have me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Where can we find your music online?
So it's pretty much everywhere. Spotify. I've got 2 records up on Spotify, a handful of singles. Going to be releasing that single with Jake Tankersley, the one that we did.
Yeah,
It's called
yeah.
Stuck on You. It was a Lionel Richie song that neither of us had ever heard.
Okay.
Snoop gave it to us, and we kind of did a little bit more of a Nashville-centric version of it.
Yeah.
And then, so Apple Music, all that stuff. I've got a YouTube channel.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
okay.
I say I have a YouTube channel. I have stuff on YouTube, and I'm not nearly as much of a wizard with it as you are. But there's some stuff there, and I'm gonna be posting more and more.
That's great, man.
Because it's there. And
Where can people get your vinyl?
My website, bradsample.com.
Okay.
Yeah, check it out there. I'm trying to remember. I think right now we're selling them for $35, which. If there are any audiophile dweebs out there, this is full stop 180 gram deep groove vinyl. Dan Strike mastered it. Yeah, Dan Strike mastered it for vinyl, so it's not just a like a digifile that got slapped onto some. I'm kind of an audiophile dweeb anyway, so like if we were gonna do it, we wanted to go pretty hard in the paint on it.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it turned out sounding really good. So
very cool.
Yeah,
man, thanks for hanging.
Dude,
thanks
thank you so much for having me, bro. This has been a blast.
Talking Jazzmaster, playing a little guitar.
Yeah.
Hopefully
sloppy as it might have been.
Hopefully we can get in a room together and work on another record.
Yeah,
together.
dude. Hopefully that'd be a blast.
Cool. Well, I'll have links to all Brad's stuff in the description, and we'll see you guys later.
Peace, guys.
See ya.